Hey, Gator Nation. Welcome back to Respect Our Decision, Pod of the People. As always, I'm your boy Hirsch. With me, CJ the Man McCann.
What's up, guys?
And of course, as always, the hype man Wes.
What's good, Gator Nation?
Hey guys, if you don't know, if maybe this is your first time stumbling across this show, this is our weekly Q&A show that we do. For all you guys that follow us on social media, we post a questionnaire each and every week, and you send in your questions underneath it. And we try to give our best answers, maybe what we've heard, what we're thinking, and maybe some of them are just silly questions. We got a couple of those this week. Man, we like to talk about all kinds of things. And I promise y'all next week, CJ is going to have the community question ready to go. We're still getting back into the groove of Pod of the People, guys. You know, as when the season got here, we went ahead and put it on pause, and now we're back full-fledged. You know, we're going to have some good community questions. Maybe next week's will be like, why do you think EA Sports didn't have a trailer for NCAA 24 during the national championship game? Leave your answer below. Maybe because EA Sports is a scam, but that's a whole nother opinion. We'll talk about that a different day. But as always, guys, check this out wherever you get your podcast from. What? Wes just bumping in on us here.
Yeah, you back.
But as always,
We lost
Wes had technical difficulties. It's always Wes. It's always Wes. Guys, make sure that you go out there and download this wherever you get your podcast from. As I was saying before, Wes so rudely technically difficultied out. Or if you're checking us out on YouTube, guys, do what you did last week, man. Y'all smashed it last week. Did a great job. Over 1,000 views on it. Best episode ever. Go ahead, check it out. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a like. Leave a question. Maybe if you want to leave a question for next week down below, go ahead and leave it in the comments, and we'll get it from there too. We don't mind, man. We'll read a question from anywhere.
That's right.
That's right. All right, guys, here we go. Starting off, long-time listener, long-time question asker, Charlie Sapp. Thank you as always, Charlie, for participating, man. Charlie's a great member of our little group chat we have on Facebook. His question is, and I'll start with you, CJ, is Montgomery still Florida's number one quarterback choice for 2025?
I feel like he is. But I will tell you that this got a lot more interesting. At one point, if you asked me back around October, I'd have told you it was a slam dunk. I would have told you it was a slam dunk. It was over. Montgomery was going to be the guy. From everything that I'd heard and I knew about what was going on with Montgomery, that it was pretty much going to be a guy who was going to be like DJ and commit around December, and be in the class until we sign. And a lot of guys have gotten involved. Now too, Antoine Hill is back and he's available. Antoine Hill's the guy that I want. He was originally committed to Colorado. So if Ron Montgomery doesn't want to play ball, I'm more than happy to get Antoine Hill. Antoine Hill's the guy with the big arm. If you haven't watched him, watch him play. He's not somebody wrote somewhere talking about he was a really like a dual threat guy. He's really not. He's a pocket passer. He's a true downfield, throw the football kind of guy. He has insane numbers in Houston County. Somebody's going to get a great quarterback in him. And Montgomery's a very good talent too. I'd be satisfied with either one of them. But right now, it looks like USC's heavily involved with Ryan Montgomery, and he really liked his visit there, from what I've been told. So we might not be, fully invested in Montgomery. And two, it's going to be hard to recruit these guys when you have a quarterback room now that contains DJ Lagway. Because quarterbacks don't commit to come sit on the bench; they want to play. And a lot of these guys, as high ranked as these guys are, they can go play. They can go other places and play. But Florida's first option right now, and it looks like the first, the talented, the guy in the room, the heir apparent, is DJ Lagway. So I'm going to be really interested to see how well they do selling a quarterback to come join this room with him in it. But as of right now, I don't think Ryan Montgomery is a stone cold lock like it was at one point.
A little piece of side info that I can add to that before we move on. This episode, for those of y'all that you'll already be listening to it, so obviously you'll know this. This episode will debut Saturday night at 8 p.m., probably right around that time. Billy Napier is visiting Ryan Montgomery on Friday. So by the time you listen to this, Billy would have already paid a visit to Ryan Montgomery. So that tells you that he's still very much a high priority for the Gators. But I'm with CJ. I would not mind one bit about Mr. Antoine Hill being in the class. All right, Wes. Next question is from Jay Stubbins. We all know Jay Stubbins has always been a great question asker, and Jay even says it himself. Day one listener and loved the show. But who do you guys think is someone in the spring that needs to show something or get out of the way?
Wow. That is a
Put you
hell
on
of
the
a
spot.
question. Yeah, because I'm thinking who's in front of whom and who can replace who. Um, there's some guys that have some opportunities this year to step up in a major way, and I'm trying to dig my brain to think. I'm gonna go with Jason Marshall.
I was going to say that's exactly who I was thinking.
We have some young guys coming in. We have some portal guys coming in, and if he's not going to be that guy, and I would also
If you couldn't have come up with a name, I was
yeah,
about to slip that one to you under the table.
yeah, I was pondering. I was like, that's the only guy I could come up with, and also more as well. I will put him in that same. It is not because of his ability to play, because we know when he's on the field, that kid is phenomenal. It's his availability. So I will say those two corner spots, because there's some guys that behind them. We talked about Johnson.
Jackson.
Yeah, Johnson and Jackson, both of those kids.
Yeah,
As
Dijon.
far as the
Yep.
corner, Dejan, yeah. So we have two corners behind those guys that came in highly recruited. Got Johnson from Ohio State. We saw Jackson on the field last year. We didn't get Johnson from Ohio State. We flipped him from Ohio State. Let me make that clear. He's not a poor kid. He's a guy we recruited in the class last year with Jackson and all those other kids with Castell and Denson and that class. So we have a lot of guys in the secondary that can come in and prove themselves this year. So if Moore can't stay healthy, if I see an ankle turn and he's not in spring practice or something, I'm gonna be pissed off. If we see the same troubles with Marshall, and he kind of improved as the season went on, but we just had so much expectation for that kid coming in as a former 5 star, borderline 5 star, from depending on what site that you looked at. His expectations were high. I mean, this is going to be his third, if I'm not mistaken, DB coach, if not fourth. So that I hope you got to learn something. You got to be picking up something. So, but he did play a little bit better. It's just the talent and the expectation, especially when you're playing DB at the University of Florida. We call ourselves DBU for a reason, with a lot of other schools, but he has to go out there and perform. If not, I want to see more of Jackson opposite of Moore, or vice versa.
I would also add to it any single individual on the defensive line. If those guys aren't, if somebody isn't getting it done on the defensive line, there's plenty of talent behind them. Kelby Collins, Cersei, all these younger guys. Slackman just came in. I don't believe he's penciled in as a starter, but somebody ain't getting it done. Next man up on that defensive line. We need production. All right, CJ, from my buddy, my fellow Falcon fan, Jed Keel. Best guesses as to the starting O line is currently constructed.
Okay. My best guess is probably going to be uh, Barber at left. Um, I would say Harris at right guard, or excuse me, Harris at left guard, Slaughter at center, Damian George at right guard, and then Crenshaw Dixon at right tackle.
You
Would
don't think
probably
that
be
maybe Crenshaw Dixon goes to left and Barber slides back to
it.
right?
It could either way. You could
Probably
flip
one of
flop.
those get into
You could
practice and see how it
Yeah,
goes.
let's see what they do. Devon Manuel has played a lot. He could take a spot. I don't think. I think that's a lot of it too, man. If Roderick Kearney comes out here and he busts his ass, Damian George has shown me nothing to guarantee him a spot. I'm just saying, he played a lot
He's a big
last year,
buddy.
and he's a better. I mean, he's got to be a better guard than he was a tackle. He can't be worse as a guard. No
My whole
offense.
thing with him though is can you ever see him pulling or anything
Yeah.
like that? Like I can't
You
see
know,
him doing
and like I said, you've got a lot of those guys that are just ready to go as far as the guard position. You've got guys in the room. Interior guys. Kearney's in that room. You recruited a ton of guys like that. Noel Portenhagen is a guy that the staff really really likes. If he comes in and he's lighting it on fire, this is a guy who's been playing against grown men. in Germany. This isn't, this isn't just like your typical recruit high school kid. I understand it's German football; it's different, but they talk about him and they say he's like a photocopy of what they have with Osiris Torrance. So if you can have those guys come in and step up, I think that you could definitely see. I think the guards positions are the only two that I really have questions of where they're going to be, because I know that Slaughter's going to play center.
I think Bryce Lovett needs to be in the conversation.
Bryce Lovett's a guy for sure. Cameron Waits is a guy. He's come back from his injury. There's guys who play that guard position. Marcus Maskell, he's going to get here a little late because he's not one of the early enrollees, but you brought him in. Mike Williams is another guy that you've brought in. He's a freshman. But let's see what happens as we get into camp. These guys move around. You've got a lot of guys fighting for that interior, those two right and left guard spots. But like I said, the only thing I feel is concrete now is your tackles and your center. That left and right guard, we'll see what that turns into after spring camp. I think those two positions are up in the air. I think anybody can get those.
Absolutely. All right, Wes. Next question comes from Ryan Guerin. Ryan says, with the group of kids at the skill positions that surround him and the talent he brings on his own, do you expect Graham Mertz to be a legitimate Heisman candidate in 2024?
No.
Mertz?
No, I don't think he will be I'm not going to put that expectation on myself or him. I just want him to do a little bit more of what he did last year. He was a game manager and he was excellent at it. I think we all had him maybe close to double digits in throwing interceptions, and he wasn't even close to it. So if he keeps it 5 and under again this year, I would. Matter of fact, Hirsch and CJ, I wouldn't mind him going to 5 or 6 interceptions if he's throwing the deep ball more to certain guys that can go out and make a play. I would love to see, and I think I told you guys this. I would love to see Trey more on some go balls or some posts, some deep posts, or Mizell or Jackson, because I feel like Jackson is a 70-30 guy, meaning not 50-50 ball, but a 70-30, because his hands are spectacular. We saw a lot of plays with Jackson. Just he's different when the ball was in the air, and I like that. Douglas is gone, but Douglas was like that as well, as far as one of those guys that you just saw that uses their hands very well with catching the pass. So if I wouldn't mind if Mertz goes to 7 picks, meaning that's meaning he's taking more chances and throwing the ball deeper. But I don't think he will be a Heisman candidate, not at all.
I think you're also going to see some packages for DJ that take some snaps away from him as well. And I'm not going to say that hurts him, but think about it with like Chris Leak in 2006. I mean,
or even we saw Monday with Orgy and McCarthy. Hey, I can't help that's his last name. I can't help that his last name is Orgy. Unfortunately,
I didn't see any Orgy.
I'll tell you this: he has the second most unfortunate last name, unlike a certain player in Indiana who's a linebacker.
My God.
Go ahead and pronounce that name for me.
Nope. Nope. Wes about to come and get you. Wes is frozen. No, he's not. There he is. Oh, there he goes. He's gone again.
That made him lead the call. I mean, it was bad.
He was having more technical difficulties.
Oh, he's back. All right.
He's back. Internet in South Carolina sometimes is touch and go. It's that way in Georgia too. All right. On to the next question. This is from Jonathan Williams, and Jonathan, I'll answer this one for you real quick. Any chance we get an offensive coordinator? Has that ship sailed? Jonathan, get back with us about February 1st or 2nd, and then we'll have a much clearer aspect on that once the contracts that expire on January 31st expire, and then we'll see what's going on. All right. CJ, this is for you. This is from Steve Beatty, and I'm going to kind of reconstruct this question a little bit because underneath it, some people commented, and he kind of changed his text a little bit. But what he was trying to say is, for 20 years or so, UF has had a real hard time signing in-state 5-star players. Why?
because you talk about 20 years. You know, Alabama got really good. I'll tell you this too: the access to players, the access to film, all that has never been as more prevalent as it has been in the last 20 years. Recruiting and scouting players, identifying players, all the services they have now. I think it has changed a lot of things. And then Florida for the last 20 years hasn't been very good. On top of that, you look at, just pretty much a couple of decades of mediocrity. It's hard when you got kids that are they're going to Alabama. Alabama's really good. Georgia's really good. You're having to play tug of war with the other two big three in the state. It's not like Georgia where your only competition is Tech, and unless you have a 4.5 GPA, you ain't getting into Tech. So there's really not a. It is what it is. I think that's a lot of it. I think mostly it's just the way we consume information. I think it's the way that it's all out there now for people to access. You've got coaches, it used to be, we all watched college football years ago. If you had a team from Michigan, Michigan's most of their team was made up of kids from Michigan. And therefore they're on. You had a team from California. Most of their players were from California. Texas, most of their players were from Texas. Now it's just changed. Kids leave, they go places. You have more, ways to communicate now with your family. It's easier to see your family. You don't get homesick as much. You've also added now, and this is a recent thing, you've got the portal, where if it just doesn't work out, you can go home with seemingly no penalty. So I think that's a lot of it. And like I said, the main root cause of it is Florida's just not been very good. But there's a lot of other extenuating factors that just have changed the way college football works. From, like I said, it's not a regional sport anymore. It's worldwide. It's global. It's national. You've got these kids. They go anywhere. Every game from every school is on TV now. Years ago, if you lived in Florida, you watched Florida teams, and maybe once in a while you'd see Notre Dame or something. Now you can watch anybody. You can see almost every game is pretty much televised. So these kids have more knowledge of who USC is or who Oregon is, or the schools in Texas or Tennessee or Louisiana. I just think that the world has changed. Kids now aren't so stuck home. I think they, like I said, they're more adventurous. I think they want to go out more. So I think it's just the way things have changed. I think that it's just a different world.
Absolutely. Excuse me. All right, Ryan Parker has 3 questions for us, and the first 2 I'm going to just shoot through real quick because they're pretty cut and dry questions. The first one: lots of visits used on portal DBs. Opinion on which ones we land? Obviously, Ryan, we landed DJ Douglas. I haven't heard any more about Yam. He got a crystal ball for Ole Miss. Obviously, Ole Miss has been killing it in the portal. I really don't know of any other portal DB targets as of the recording of this show. Feels like another portal offensive line is needed. Current targets. The only other offensive line target I know we have right now is Lance Hurd, and the powers that be don't feel really good about that one. I know that they've talked some big numbers, and that's all we can really say about that, but that doesn't look promising, especially with all the, we've already brought in 2 offensive tackles. Some of these kids are looking for promises that we're just not going to give them. Kids like this that have been sitting on the bench and feel like they're the most talented guy in the room are going to want to promise, hey, I want to start as soon as I get there. And we're not going to make that kind of promise. You can't, because here's what happens. You make them that promise, they get to campus, they don't live up to the expectation. You sit them down, and the next thing you know, they've cleaned out their locker and they're throwing their name back in the portal. And we've, and the system allows them to. So, that's what it is. It's better to tell a kid, hey, you're going to have to come in and you're going to have to fight for your position. And if they buy into that and they like what we're selling, there you go. All right. Now here's a fun question. real relatable. Wes, I'm going to start with you. And he even says, now for the real question. Who is your all-time favorite pro wrestler? Wes.
Well, CJ and Hurst already know this. I have a couple.
You can name two. It's all
I'll
right.
name two. My two, and I'll go with the first because he's passed away. Scott Hall. Growing up, Scott Hall. I was a big Scott Hall fan. So that was my guy.
Razor baby.
Yeah, when he went to WCW, and I wanted him to get with the Wolfpack, and as a kid, you don't know, you just think it's all real and love it. So when he went with the black and white, that really hurt. But I always wanted the real, because the group with X Pac and Triple H and Shawn Michaels. I always and Big Kevin Nash. I always wanted them to do something together as DX. But Scott Hall was my favorite until the 90s, early 2000s rock. Not the Hollywood rock, but the early catchline.
Corporate rock.
Yeah, corporate rock was my favorite. Even when he was a bad guy, I love the rock. So
the
those
bad
two,
guy rock was the best rock.
yeah, that's why I said early 90s. Late 90s, early 2000s rock was my favorite.
His $2,000 shirt.
Yeah. So even with him and Mick Foley, the sock and rock connection, all that stuff,
Rock
I
and
love
sock.
that.
Oh.
So
you just went left over right.
Yeah. My bad. I was excited, man. I'm excited because he was a good question. Those two,
and that's going to tie into what I say in a minute. But
yeah, those
CJ?
two were my favorite, man.
Man, you ask me this next week and you'll get a different answer because I've just got so many guys that I just love. From Flair, Randy Savage. I love Randy Savage. Probably my favorite though is probably Sting. I've always loved Sting. When I was a kid, Sting was like the coolest ever. Face paint, WCW ended. He went to TNA, and I was like really into that because I don't know. Sting was
Joker
cool.
Sting.
I watched a lot of that. I loved Sting. My grandfather had old NWA tapes, and I'd watch Sting wrestle Ric Flair and Lex Luger and the Horsemen, and I just loved Sting. Sting is probably my favorite. But like I said, you can ask me any day of the week, and it'll probably get a different answer.
Quick wrestling trivia question: Who was Sting's original tag team partner?
The Ultimate Warrior, Jim
That is
Hellwig.
correct.
Yep, they
2
were.
points to Hufflepuff.
Yeah, that or sometimes I'll say Kurt Angle. I love Kurt Angle. But like probably my favorite would probably be Sting. I love Sting.
My favorite all time, without question, and that's why I got on to Wes is Mick Foley. I love Mick Foley because Mick Foley was an average dude who didn't have a particular set of athletic skills and made a absolute crazy awesome career. He pretty much with Terry Funk invented the hardcore style of wrestling, which was so big in the 90s, early 2000s. Literally the three faces of Foley is just one of the coolest things ever. I still have a Cactus Jack shirt somewhere in the dresser drawer. A close second is excuse me, Jake the Snake Roberts. Maybe one of the most underappreciated guys in the history of wrestling. With Scott Hall, probably the two greatest wrestlers to never hold a world championship, Scott Hall and Jake the Snake. And not only for his in-ring work, but his life out of the ring and the trials and tribute, just the things he went through with his addiction and how bad he struggled and his whole life fell apart. And then he was able to get himself cleaned up with the help of DDP. Shout out to DDP. Get clean and just make himself where he's in the Hall of Fame with WWE. And now he's, not very often, but he's in AEW. So he's connected to wrestling companies. He's earning a paycheck from the business again. And he's going around on speaking tours and things like that. So Love me some Jake the Snake. All right. Moving back to the hard questions here. Justin Wood with his regular gauntlet of questions. We'll start, CJ, with you. With the miss of Howell, where do you think Florida goes at edge?
I think they're done. They went with Gums. I think that was the choice. I think they went between the two. I think they liked Gums how he measured out. I think Gums was more ready to commit. So I think that's it. I think that's where it's at. I mean, I'm not as worried as doom and gloom about the edge room as some of the other folks are. I think there's plenty of guys that could come off of that edge next year for us, guys that we just have all over the place. So like I said, again, we'll get into the spring. Let's see what happens. Let's let them get into a workout program. Let's see where we go from there. Again, Pup Howard is a possible guy to be playing on the edge as well. I'm not really sure what they're going to do, but I don't think we're going to add another one. I don't think there's another one in the portal that we've looked at. Again, we've only got 3 more spots as of today. So yeah, I think that they chose Gums. For better or worse, you guys, all have different opinions on that. Your opinions are valid, and I understand it. But I think that the staff has knocked it out of the park with evaluations similar to Gums before. So again, I am more lenient to let the football people make the decisions and let them, see what let them prove it to us themselves. Just kind of hold your opinions until we put on pads and we play football. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Absolutely. All right, Wes. Next question from Justin. Transfer portal targets seem to have a great time on their visits. What do you think the disconnect is? More money from the other schools?
Yeah, basically. And now, just like what you mentioned with Hurd, certain
Promises.
pro, yeah, and then it's something you mentioned that we're gonna have to tune into as far as the 2025 class. It's a wait and see, and Billy's not in the position to take guys that right now or development guys. But like I keep forgetting who said what, but you or CJ mentioned the point of I think it was CJ that said if a guy just coming in, a highly recruited guy that sat on the bench for 1 year and then year 2 Billy's not in that position right now. We need guys that have played a little bit and for a couple years maybe at a smaller school and can come in and contribute right now because like her said, Billy knows this is it. Like he has to produce. He can't have another losing season. For sure. So it's about getting those type of guys in that can come in and contribute to the team, whether they're starting or they're depth pieces, because that's something that's also hurt us. We saw Shamar James go down, and there's nobody there to take up the slack. Our linebacker core took a major hit when he went down last year. So we need guys that can contribute as far as depth or start on the field right now. So the guys that come in and have a good time right now is mostly, to me, in my opinion, to really answer that question, is a lot about money. And we know where our university stands when it comes to being serious about football.
Yes, sir. All right. CJ, baseball question time. What do you think the starting rotation will be for the baseball team? Who do you think the closer is going to be, and what is the bullpen going to look like?
The bullpen, the Gators have a ton of really talented arms. They've recruited well. I think your weekend guys, your weekend rotation is going to be probably be Fisher, probably be Cade Fisher, Jack Caglione. Like I said, Jack Caglione in fall camp looks much better. He looks like he's got much more control of his ball, which is what we wanted to see. Coming off of the surgery, get more control the next year afterwards. He's definitely looks like he's getting better. And then that third spot, you've got Brandon Neely has been a super, super solid closer for you. But he can start. He can start and he can play. And if that's the guy they feel like is their best option, I feel like they would do that. Like I said, you've got a lot of just young guys. And then you've got guys that have been here a little while. Blake Purnell's still here. I could see Blake Purnell taking that closing spot. If he was to work into that role. You've got Pierce Kapala, who's finally, I think going to be healthy, which we've all waited on Pierce Capalla for a long time. He's a big, tall guy. He's, really highly recruited, highly rated. Before the injury, he was, on a lot of high draft boards for this year coming up. So we're going to see what he can do going forward. Like I said, we'll get into the get everything cranking up here for baseball pretty shortly. I think, but right now I feel like that Caglione, Fisher, and Neely are probably going to be your weekend rotation guys. That's kind of the way I see it, but that could definitely change. But early word, I think a lot of people have them as the three rotation guys. But bullpen is super deep. You've got a bunch of guys, a bunch of new faces. But like I said, Florida has recruited really well. They've got a lot of really talented kids out of high school. They're gonna take some lumps early on, I think, and that's to be expected when you have kids that young. I think that everybody's best job to do is just don't panic when they guys take some lumps because they are talented. They're highly recruited. A lot of teams are one of these guys. They're just going to have to find their footing. They're playing big time college baseball in the toughest conference. You look at the early top 25 ranking, uh, 8 or 9 if you count Texas of the 25 is SEC schools. You're playing a tough schedule. You're playing tough teams. Like I said, these young guys are just going to have to take their lumps. So just kind of keep it. Like I always say, baseball, football, don't think about them in the same vein. Losing a game in baseball is not the same as losing a football game. The schedules are totally different. Making mistakes is all part of it. If you want to, you want to win the weekend series. You want to go 2 out of 3. Those are the ones that matter. Of course, you want to beat Florida State, the midweek stuff. I get that, but if you lose a game, we've seen it years past. You lose a game to Stetson, or you lose a game to North Florida, or you lose one to FAMU or whoever, USF. It sucks, and you think you shouldn't, but it's just that's what it is. You don't play your best pitchers those nights. You kind of play with the rotation a little bit, get people experience. The main thing is your conference play. You want to hammer that. You want to hammer the weekend series. So just like I said, just don't panic when these guys kind of get beat up a little bit sometimes if they're young. But yeah, I think we'll do fine. I think, like I said, there's just a lot of talent in the room. What they do with the talent, yeah, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. But I think that we're going to really see this team develop through the year. I think like I said early on, I think you'll see some of the guys take some of the lumps. But I think by the end of the season, we're in the heart of SEC play, getting ready for the tournament in Hoover. I think you're really going to see these guys coming to their own with that rotation in the bullpen.
Listen to what CJ says about this baseball stuff, guys, because I'm a huge baseball fan. It's my first love. But I've only ever really lightly followed college baseball. I'm very guilty of being that guy that doesn't start watching to the regionals. And I didn't realize the things he says about the weekend series being what mattered and the pitching rotations. And Nick De La Torre, to his credit, kind of said the same things as what CJ's saying here when I've spoken to him. And it kind of makes sense now when you watch how the rotation is set up for the series and whatnot. And like CJ said, man, we're gonna dive into that more and more as we get to baseball season. Like
I said, before baseball starts, I'm gonna do a full preseason standalone. We'll
episode
upload it to
around the bases with CJ.
I'll upload it to
solo
YouTube
style.
So we'll just, like I said, I'll get you guys. I'll break down the roster, break down some of the schedule. When we get to that, do a long form where I can talk more in depth about that. So, I'm kind of saving some of that on the back burner for that episode. So if you really want to know what's going on with the baseball season, be on the lookout for that because I'll definitely upload that. And you guys can really hear me talk more about
We're going to have CJ uploading.
Because there's so many guys between the signees, and you still got Fisher Jameson, and you still got Slater, the guys that I didn't even mention. So there's definitely some guys coming back from last year, but we've definitely got some talent from signees that could really play really soon.
All right, Wes. Last question from Justin. Does it bother you guys that rumors are that Ron Roberts was about to get fired by Auburn? You're muted.
No, it does not bother me at all. We talked about that on our main podcast. I'm happy more about the cohesion. The other two guys, CJ and Hurst, spoke about uh, as him being the godfather of the defense with Tony and Armstrong learning tutelage under him. I'm more thankful that we have a guy that is with the rumors out there with certain guys on staff not getting along well with Armstrong, which makes me think that Armstrong will be calling the plays again. Is bringing a guy in that has a relationship with him, that kind of mentored him as he was brought up and overseer, and to echo what I said on the main podcast, to have him up in the booth to me is intriguing, and I hope it is something that happens. CJ, when he said it, I don't know if he knew how phenomenal that was to me, and you fans as well, as having a guy like that up there seeing things and being able to relate it to Armstrong, because Armstrong is a guy that's not going to be up in the booth. He likes to be in tune with the player. He likes when they come off the field making a play, jumping and bumping and all that stuff. So he's that type of guy that needs to be close down to the field. If you have your eyes and ears, somebody that you can trust upstairs saying, hey, I think we need to do a corner blitz on this one. Oh, I see something that this guy is doing, and that's somebody that you have confidence in that's going to give you the right information. I'm thrilled that he's our linebacker coach and that he's somebody that has a prior relationship with Armstrong. So nah, it doesn't bother me at all. And to me, that probably Hugh Freeze, you know how he is. That's probably something that they probably rubbed the wrong way.
Rumor was, and I'm just going to close with that on it, is they were using him kind of as a scapegoat to keep faith in the boosters. You know, boosters are paying out right now to Auburn, but you have a play like that 4th and 31 at the end of the Bama game, you know, people start to get a little antsy and whatnot.
I will say this though, but watching Auburn, I don't think their defense what was really losing Auburn games. They just were not
Thorne
scoring.
playing quarterback was what was
Yeah,
Auburn's
hey, listen, dude, if we can mirror Auburn's defense from last year, I'll take that every day.
Yeah, because I watched them shut down UGA for almost the whole game. They just couldn't hang with them offensively.
Right. I just, like I said, I don't know. Like I said, this is news to me. If Ron Roberts was doing that bad of a job, because every time I watched Auburn play, their defense was pretty good. It wasn't the pits like ours.
You know how
Ours
it
is
goes.
terrible.
The high dollar boosters always got to have a scapegoat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If we're going to give you our money, you've got to make some change. And it happens at every team, including ours.
Yeah,
we're looking at you, Mark Hockey.
yeah. I mean, that's part of it for sure. I mean, like I said, when you're talking boosters like Auburn that have some of the most fickle boosters in the history of college athletics, I can totally see why they'd have to let somebody fall on the sword.
All right. Justin Cordero has 3 more questions for us. I'm going to take the first one, and I'm going to split the other 2 with you guys. His first question: what do you think happens with Corey Raymond? ? Does he go on to coach in the NFL? Justin, from things I've been told, is he may flat out retire. Uh-oh.
It's just you that's frozen on my screen here.
Uh-oh.
But we can still hear you.
Okay, well,
there
we go.
You, but you're frozen just on our screen.
I'm frozen on the screen, guys, but I'm not going to let it keep me from going here. You guys, yeah. So yeah, I've heard rumors that he may out and out retire.
So, yeah, I've heard he may go back to LSU. I've heard that
he may go back to LSU, but otherwise he may out and out retire. Yeah. He's at that point. All right. So I'm going to ask this of you, CJ. Justin Cordero asked, if you got the football GM role for a day for the Gators, what would be the first 3 things you would do day one?
For GM role?
Yes.
Man, they all. I'm gonna at least, number one, I'm gonna have a meeting with all the boosters, and we're gonna talk and come up with a game plan for recruiting. What we need to do. It's no secret that there was a lot of things last year that just seemed like kind of were disconnected, discombobulated. Even the boosters, kind of feel that way, that need to get tightened up. And I think that's one thing that you need to worry with. I think that most everything, as far as being the GM right now, is going to revolve around recruiting. Whether it's in the portal, whatever I think that's the main role that they're coming. I don't know as far as GM if there was anything I would touch as far as the on field stuff, because I think we're doing that. I don't think that there's anything that's going unturned at that point. So I think that's definitely one thing to look at. But mostly all my eggs are probably going into the recruiting basket at this point. I think that's kind of like the main the main job of the GM role that we're going to be looking at is a guy that can really help us recruit out of the portal, recruit out of high school, those kind of things. I didn't, you want to say, make a coaching change here, push for an offensive coordinator. Maybe that's something you do, but I just don't feel like that's kind of the GM role that we're looking at. How we how we hired. I don't think that was the desired effect would be anything on the field. I think it's all just the portal stuff and the NIL stuff. I think that's kind of what you have to just do. I think that's the main thing. You look at your groups, the UAA, the boosters, the athletic director, the players, the coaches, just trying to get everybody on the same page of how to attack college football as it sits today. Because I think there's something you got to get something hammered out here and get like a fine line of what you look to achieve and what you think the best way to go about it is, instead of just throwing darts around or spending money for the sake of spending money. You got to have a pretty disciplined attack at this point. I think that you just can't sit here and throw cash around. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think, not especially not for us. I don't think that that's even possible.
Okay, guys, last question. And Wes, we covered this mainly on our main show, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. Saban retiring affect the Gators, if any?
It's going to affect all of college football with coaching and whoever leaves and stays at whatever university they may be at, and of course recruiting. We mentioned on the main podcast about the 30-day window that a lot of kids are going to have to that we've recruited that we lost head up battles to with Alabama. So hopefully those head up battles that we lost to, and all of them aren't head up. Like Keely we wasn't in the finals for Keely, but hopefully that's somebody that now we can intrigue to come because he has a place that maybe he can start at or whatever. So it's going to affect recruiting. It is going to affect coaching and who goes where, which is still going to affect recruiting. So bottom line is recruiting, and it is to me a lot of kids that chose Georgia. Chose Alabama over Georgia. That's the thing that's going to be the most prudent because now the kids that Alabama, Nick Saban was keeping from Georgia might end up at Georgia. So that's the scary part of this. And on top of that, Nick was the only guy that was consistently beating Saban. I mean, beating Kirby, except for that last game in the national championship, which I felt like they would have won if Jamison Williams was still healthy, or the kid from they played with the Houston Texans now that had leukemia. I can't remember his name, but they lost both of their players. One in the SEC championship game, one receiver went down. Then in that championship game, the other receiver goes down. Well, the Nick Saban beats him again. So Georgia kind of lucked into that first championship, if you ask me. So Nick is the guy that's kept Kirby from two or three national championships, if you want to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see all the things that kind of domino from this.
It might have been 4 national championships. Tua, he's beat him a couple times in the SEC championship game. Wow. Kirby could have had a lot of championships that went for Nick Saban. Wow. It's crazy.
All right, guys, that's going to do it, man. We appreciate y'all sending in all the questions this week. Like I said, be on the lookout for next week's questionnaire. We'll put them on our social media platforms, and you just go ahead and send your questions in, and we'll do it all over again, man. And like I said, CJ will have us a community question next week that we'll have posted, and we look forward to seeing your answers to whatever that very creative question will be. And until then, guys, thank you as always, and go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you like a bag though.
I can't. I don't know if it even ended the show.
It still says we're recording at the top.
Yeah, I see the top of the pod.
I mean, I'll have to edit it, and that's fine, but I can't get it to stop right now. It's like my computer went into crazy mode. Oh, I'm just going to shut my computer. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.